Okay, so in this video, I'm going to explain as quickly as I can how the RS exam is going to work this year for Year 9. So you've got two sections of the exam. You've got section A, which is slightly shorter answer, and then section B, which is one longer answer question. And I would suggest making sure that you leave at least 20 minutes for section B. So if you're watching the clock and it's already been 20 minutes and you're still on section A, I would suggest switching over to the next part. So let's have a look at section A first of all. So you need to answer both questions in section A. The format of those questions will be what you see on the screen here. So the first question will be explain two ways in which beliefs about something influence some religious group in their lives today. And the second question will be of the format explain two religious beliefs about such and such. You don't know what words are going to replace those question marks in your exam, but you do know the topics that you need to revise, which are the first two topics covered in the year. So that is Unit 1, beliefs about the nature of God, and Unit 2, beliefs about the origins of the universe. Okay. Section B, on the other hand, is one where you answer just one question. You choose that question from the three options on your planning sheet. You need to produce a plan in advance of the exam and bring it with you on that planning sheet to the exam. That is part of the assessment of criterion B. So if you don't have your plan, then you are automatically losing marks in criterion B. It's also worth bearing in mind that you may need to do some research or investigating because, some of the questions that are on offer in section B go kind of beyond what we have time to cover in lessons. And so it's a bit of an opportunity for you to do some wider reading if you would like to. I should also mention at this point, there isn't a specific mark division between these different questions. It's not like 5 marks for section A, question 1 or whatever, because instead what you're getting is a more holistic score on the MYP, on each of the MYP criteria. I just mentioned, you probably want at least 20 minutes for section B because that's roughly how long it would take, I think, to write a really good response for that question. So let's have a look at some examples. Okay, so this, what you see on the screen here are two examples of what those question A questions might look like. Okay, so the one on the left is what section A question 1 might look like, and the one on the right is what section A question 2 might look like. Now these questions are not on a topic that we've studied, but they give you an example of what that would look like. So then in terms of how you approach it, the first question you would write basically 2 short paragraphs, just 3 sentences each, and each one would be following this PEE/BAA structure. And you might be wondering, well, why do I mention both PEE and BAA? And the answer is because they amount to the same thing in this context. So the point for the P is stating the belief, right? The explanation is giving an attitude that would arise from that belief, and the expand would be, again, an action that would follow from that belief and attitude. The second paragraph would be basically the same thing and the same structure, but just with different information. So you've got 2 paragraphs here, which would be an example for this question that we've given here. And you can see it's color coded. So in the first one, the blue is the P, the green is the E, and then the kind of brown is the second E, or again BAA if you prefer. Either way. Second paragraph, you've got the purple as the P, and then the sort of yellowy orange as the E, and then the darker blue, as the second E. Or again, you could look at that as BAA if you prefer. And you can pause the video here if you want to read through those paragraphs in more detail, but I think you can see how they show that kind of structure. Okay, section A, question 2 then. It's 2 short paragraphs. Each one is again pretty short, and we'll see in section B you're writing paragraphs that are quite a bit longer. Again, the structure is PEE. In this instance, it's not quite the BAA now, because it's not asking about actions that stem from these things. But instead, it's a kind of what, why, why structure. So what is the religious belief? That's the same as in question 1. But then, why would people of this religion believe this thing, or why is it important? And then kind of doing that again. So 2 whys, if you like, in the paragraph. The other thing is that in at least one of these paragraphs, you need to be quoting a bit of scripture, and explaining, it needs to be clear why that bit of scripture is relevant to this particular question. Now, you might be concerned here, you might be worrying that you're going to have to learn loads and loads of scriptural quotations off by heart. But you don't really, for a couple of reasons. One is that the quotations can be short. They don't have to be long quotations. And the other thing is that for this question, section A, question 2, you are choosing the religion that you write about. So, that means you can choose essentially one of these religions and learn, just 1 or 2 scriptural quotations from that religion about each of the 2 units. So let's say if you choose Christianity, for example, all you've then got to do is just learn, 1 or 2 short biblical quotations for beliefs about God in Christianity, and then 1 or 2 short scriptural quotations for beliefs about the origins and creation of the universe in Christianity. Or you could do that, for Islam or Hinduism or Sikhism, So it's not actually a hugely onerous thing to have to do. So again, here are a couple of examples. Again, they are color-coded, and you can see, again, that PEE structure, or the what, why, why structure in this case. And you can also see that in the second paragraph, there is the quotation from scripture, the separation of the sheep from the goats. So that's why, that's another reason that this would be a really good answer. And you want also to use relevant terminology as well. Terms like, in this instance, paradise and parable and things like that. So any of those RS specific terms that we've used during the course would be useful ones for you to bring in. And that helps you get marks for kind of knowledge and understanding and so on. Okay. Section B then. This is divided up into 3 kind of sections, or 3 kind of longer paragraphs, if you like. So the first paragraph, basically, is giving 3 arguments in support of the statements, with religious reasons why someone would believe this thing and scriptural backing. And each one of those is a kind of PEE or WWW. Then the second section or longer paragraph is the same, but the other side of the argument. And then the third section or longer paragraph is your reasoned conclusion. And you're sort of explaining why have you decided to accept one side of the argument rather than the other. So here is an example, again, about a different topic which is not on our syllabus this year. So a loving God would not condemn people to hell. And you can see in the bullet points what are some of the things you need to do in your response. So let's have a look at a response here. And again, I'm not going to read through the whole thing. You can always pause the video and read it for yourself. But what you can see here is that you've got 3 PEEs, which are all kind of connected into one long paragraph or section. So if you look at the first one, for example, you've got the belief that God does not condemn people to hell. That's the point. Then the explanation is this idea about purification of the soul. And then a sort of further explanation is this idea about purgatory, let's say, which is a Catholic doctrine. And you can see the same PEE structure or WWW structure in the orange bit, and then again in the green bit. And all of those 3 little chunks, the blue, the orange, and the green, are supporting one side of the argument. And then here we have the other side. And again, you can pause the video if you want to read this in detail, but you've got the same thing. You've got those 3 mini kind of PEE, WWWs, 3 of those in one kind of longer section or paragraph. And again, you can see reference to particular Christian teachings and scripture, like the reference to the parable of sheep and goats. Then here you have the conclusion. So the conclusion is it's not sitting on the fence, right? It is coming down on one side of the argument or the other. It has to be, you have to pick a side, basically. And then it's also explaining why you pick that side. So you can't just say, I think this version is right and leave it at that. You have to explain why. What is the problem with the other point of view that leads you to your own point of view that you've decided. And again, you can see here in the reference to turning the other cheek there. Again, that is a reference to Christian teaching / scripture, which is important to do. And again, these are not things that you have to memorize in advance of the exam, because for section B, you can have them in your planning sheet that you bring into the exam. So just a final reminder then, do bring your planning sheet to the exam. Do make sure that you follow the plan that you have set out in your planning sheet. The plan, though, remember, it does have to be a plan. It can't be a kind of word-for-word script that you just then copy out. It must be a plan. And also make sure that your planning sheet does not contain any extra notes or facts or whatever for the section A part, right? So only fill in on your planning sheet the boxes that are provided. Don't kind of use the margins or the top or the bottom to write in loads of extra stuff for section A and section B, because remember, you are handing in the planning sheet at the end of the exam. So if you've put on any extra information that is relevant to section A and not relevant to your section B planning, and you filled the margins with kind of extra notes and so on, that is obviously going to be very clear to the people marking it. So so that's kind of everything really about the exam. Do go back over this, perhaps reread some of the exemplar paragraphs that you've seen here, and then let me know if you've got any questions, and good luck in the exam.